Let's see if this works. Fire in the snow. I don't have an infinite amount of firewood, so we gotta kind of make this quick. This is the start of a video series I've been wanting to film for a long time. A couple months ago, I was in Mexico with a couple friends. One of their names is Michelle. When I was telling a story about hitchhiking across America, and she told me, Jake, it would be a great idea if you started filming YouTube videos where you told all these stories that you have that you never tell. I thought that was a great idea, so we're starting today the first official Fireside Chat YouTube video. I also want to become Campfire King this year, so I'm learning how to cook and getting used to using my new camp setup, this awesome little tripod, to make my food. So this is what we're doing. Welcome. So while we're waiting for my water to boil this morning, so I can have a nice little freeze-dried meal, I can start by telling you the story that a lot of people don't know about me when I hitchhiked across America. This is back before I was filming YouTube videos, so it makes sense. I don't think I've ever shared it on a YouTube video, but all the way back in 2018, when I was 20 years old, I hitchhiked from Charleston, South Carolina, all the way back to Sandpoint, Idaho. The reason why I decided to do something like that was because in high school I was a basketball player with my hopes set on making it to Division I basketball. And when I got injured my senior year, that dream was over. So everything that I'd worked for, everything, I put all my eggs in one basket and I dropped the basket and it was dream over. So I had to go looking for another identity, something that would push me and get me excited to get out of bed in the morning. And I didn't have that for almost 2 years until the summer of 2018. I was sitting around a campfire just like this one when my buddy Joey said, Jake, you know it'd be great? What if we just hitchhiked across the country and went looking for treasure? And I thought he was joking, but that campfire side night was the inspiration to go start hitchhiking. So in the summer of 2018, with $1,300 about saved up in each of our bank accounts, me and my buddy Joe, we hopped on a one-way plane to Charleston, South Carolina from Spokane, Washington, with I think we both had like a 35 to 45 pound backpack, and we were gonna hitchhike like 2,500, 2,600 miles back to northern Idaho. That was our entire plan. The amount of firewood I have left is quickly dwindling, so I gotta make sure that I have this thing right over the heat. Make sure I get to eat this morning. We started our hitchhiking trip in June, early June, expecting everybody in the world was just gonna fall in love with us. Everyone loves us. That was the whole world we knew growing up in a small town up in northern Idaho. But reality set in pretty quickly. People don't love hitchhikers. I think my water is officially boiling. Oh, that's awesome. Let's go. We got breakfast today. This is why I brought the stick, so I can bring it right in here. Look at how smooth that is. I have some home-style chicken fried rice that I'm just gonna dump the boiling water right in here and let this warm up for a bit. Okay, so it looks like we've got about 10 minutes to let that sit, mix that up with the boiling water, and we'll see how it is. Meantime, let the rest of the fire burn down. Keep telling you about the hitchhiking days. The thing about hitchhiking that I won't say is particularly attractive to me, but really the reason I did it is because I knew it was going to be hard at some point. I knew it. I knew it was going to break me. I knew it was going to challenge me. I knew it was going to make me dig for something to fight for. I was so apathetic at this time. I didn't have a whole lot that I really cared about. So I knew if I went for hitchhiking and I actually got the opportunity to be in danger, that my life would start to mean something again. Because if my life didn't mean something, then I wouldn't have anything to fight for. I wouldn't have anything to try for. And I got my wish probably I think it was only about 11 days into hitchhiking. Took 39 days to get all the way back, do the full trip. We were about 11 days in when we got into Atlanta, Georgia. And my character was truly broken for the first time that I can remember in my life. Like, who I was shattered. And it all came back to racism. If you're like me, which you might not be because you might be more educated than I was at this time. If you're like me at this point in your life, at about 20 years old, you thought racism was a thing of the past. You thought that it was back 100,000 years ago, but really, racism was very recent in America, and it still rears its ugly head down in the South in a lot of small little towns. And on the outskirts of Georgia, Joey and I ended up staying with some long lost extended family that nobody had seen for years and years. They were the most racist people that I've ever met and ever stayed with. It was only about, I think, maybe 2 hours into our stay when the wife, the mom of this family, got in a little tiny fender bender, and the first thing that the dad did when he heard was explode with all these racial explicitives. I know some blah 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 hit my wife. You know, I'm not gonna say everything. So Joey and I are stuck in this place, and this was the theme of our first 11 days, where we were stuck in a place where a couple racists had brought us in and really wanted to tell us the business about how bad black people were. And oh God, it's hard to tell. And we had to sit there and kind of just say, like, well, they're being nice to us. Like, what do we say? Do we say stop? But we're in the car with them. Like, they're feeding us. They're being so kind to us, but they just want to talk all this shit. So we're just scared. We're just scared. We thought about leaving in the middle of the night, but then we got scared of either that. We're going to have to walk through freaking Atlanta at night with backpacks on our bags, everything that we own. So it's like we might die doing that. Or we just stay here and we suffer through listening to this. And the worst part of the whole time we were down there, I think we were with them for 3 days, 2 nights, 3 days, was when the dad, we saw this predominantly black church getting out on a Sunday as we were going to pick up the busted up car. And it was rush hour, and this church had shut down the street. So I could see him just steaming, like, how dare they block our path? And he exploded again in the worst racial tirade I've ever heard in my life, using words that I didn't even know you could combine together. And I turned into the back seat, and their daughter was 6 years old, listening to all of this, and she never flinched. Her face never changed, right? This dad is screaming in the front every racial thing in the book, and there's a 6-year-old girl that you realize in that moment has grown up around this hate her entire life. Her entire life. And she didn't get a choice. She doesn't get a choice. This is normal for her. It's normal to be racist. Is there another way to be in the world? She doesn't know. And it was the most heartbreaking thing that I'd ever seen in my life at that point. So by day 3 with this family, we're begging them to drive us across Atlanta. That was the deal, why we stayed with them in the first place. They were going to drive us through the city so we could keep hitchhiking on the other side. We finally get out, and it was just the start of this entire trip where I finally realized I was getting exactly what I needed. My character was broken, and learning how to survive a time like that, instead of give up and say like, we can't do this, man, we got to get a plane ticket home, we got to get out of here. You realize in these moments where you're really, really challenged, like not just physically, because we're hiking in 95-degree heats and like almost 100% humidity through the south in the middle of summer, just suffering, not only physical discomfort, but the mental turmoil that I started to go through, realizing that the world was not the way that I thought it was. Learning how to survive that is one of the greatest skills I've ever learned, because it wasn't the first time the character would be broken on that trip. We hopped on a train in Tennessee, a cargo train. we're on this cargo train trying to hide from the railroad workers. We sneak on and we're pointing to each other. Joey, go over there, like pointing, right? Joey's over here. Okay, diving behind little train cars and things, hiding on the edge of the tracks. And we get on this train, nobody kicks us off, nobody finds us. And we think we're going up north to Nashville on the way to the west. And the train takes a left turn south and goes 150 miles the wrong way down into the heart of Georgia. And we're stuck on it, going 40, 50 miles an hour, thinking, where are we going to go? Where are we going to end up? There's no way to know. We're just waiting, knowing that we're going the wrong way south. That was the second time the character was broken. The third time was after we got all the way to Montana, and we hiked this mountain called No Man's Peak in Gallatin National Forest north of Yellowstone in late June, early July. This must have been somewhere right in there. And it starts snowing, it starts storming, and I was wearing less clothes than I have on right now. I had a pair of light pants, one sweatshirt, and a button-up shirt was all I had. So we're freezing at 10,000 feet in elevation, shivering, wet, cold. We didn't bring enough food either, so we're 15 miles over these mountains into the forest, waiting for Joey to look for this treasure, which is a whole story. Forrest Finn's treasure, if you know that. You can Google it if you want to see. But we get lost out there, 15 miles away from civilization, and decide we have to start hiking after 2 days of no food, burning all these calories, trying to stay warm, shivering all night. And we start hiking, and it's like 15 miles back as the crow flies. We have to hike over all these mountains, and we spend the whole day doing it. And I remember at the end of that hike, I remember falling down at the end of the trail and thinking I would never get up again. I thought I was done. I'd given everything. I learned what it was like to actually starve for the first time in my life. But the amazing thing about when your character is broken, no matter what happens, amazing thing about starvation, about racism, about getting lost in this freaking horrible southern town, wondering if you're ever going to make it out back to civilization, is you realize that it's really not as bad as you make it out to be in your mind. Because after starving in the woods, I came back to civilization and had my first sandwich. We made it back, and I had this first little tiny sandwich that this cowboy gave me. And then we found out in the woods, and I remember falling on my knees saying, "Sir, do you just have a granola bar?" It was the first time I'd begged for food in my life. The only time I think I can ever remember doing so. And he gave us food, and the second that food hit my tongue, I got a new burst of energy, realizing I was totally fine. I thought I was gonna die, and one bite of food made me remember that everything was fine. So these are the lessons that you learn when you go out in amazing places and challenge yourself, is that you have all these ideas of what you're capable of, what the world's like. And in reality, you're capable of so much more. 39 days later, I walked back into my hometown of Sandpoint, Idaho, alone after Joey bailed out. After the hitchhiking disaster where we were stuck and lost in the forest for days, and we were screaming at each other. Whenever you're hungry, nothing's logical, right? So it's always somebody else's fault because you're just emotional, hoping that you get to see food again someday soon. I walked back and across the long bridge alone, and I gave myself the name in that moment as I made it back 15 pounds lighter. I was like 137 pounds after weighing almost 160 pounds when I left. That I was always going to be worthy of anything I wanted to do in my life. Basketball didn't work out, but it didn't mean that I wasn't capable of accomplishing anything that was hard, that no matter what challenge I came through, I could do it because I'd gotten proof by hitchhiking across America. So I gave myself the name Jake Blue as a reminder of that. A lot of people don't know my actual real last name is Jacob Kenneth Aguirre. The name I gave myself when I crossed that long bridge back into Sandpoint was Jake Blue, as a reminder that I am worthy of whatever I want to do in life. I think this is just about good. Let's pop it open and then I'll show you the view here. It's quite cold and windy up here, but I wanted to give you a chance to check out the view and see where my camping spot was last night. Like, this is one of the premium campsites that I've ever been at here in Southern Oregon. Okay, here we go. Let's give it a taste. That's actually delicious. Home style fried rib chicken and rice. Oh my gosh, that stuff is amazing. Wow, that makes me happy. First campfire meal that I've cooked this year. That's awesome. So as we're finishing up here, I want to leave you with one big lesson I learned while hitchhiking across America. It's this lesson that's stuck with me ever since, all across the country, all across my 50 states, all across the national park tours, when I'm hosting trips in other countries. This core belief is the number one thing that I learned from hitchhiking that stayed with me ever since. And it's that most people are good. Doesn't matter what religion they're from, doesn't matter what background they have, doesn't matter what country they're from, doesn't matter what their government is, doesn't matter what kind of weird place they grew up in, rich, poor, happy, sad, government official, or fisherman in Mexico. Most people are good. That doesn't always mean that they're doing the best thing, but most people are all trying to do the right thing. So all this hate that is so easy to get involved in when it comes to politics, when it comes to wars in other countries, the truth of the matter at the core of all of it is that most people are trying to do the best thing that they know how to do. And after you can have a little bit of faith in that, it allows you to connect with humanity in this whole other light, because it means that that's not a bad person. That's just a person that's learned something different, has a different set of life experiences than you have. So maybe instead of saying, this is how it is, and trying to push your opinion onto everyone, maybe you can sit back and listen long enough to learn something. I'm going to sit here and finish my breakfast and start heading up north even further. So thank you for joining me on the first little fireside chat video. This was really fun to do. I have many more coming up. And if you're interested in seeing some of my favorite places that I found across America, like this incredible view, link in the description. I have a free map to my top 61 adventure-worthy towns in America. So check that out. Stay wild, be free.